we interviewed a number of firsthand witnesses that saw this cigar-shaped craft that didn't have any visible means of propulsion, no wings, didn't make any sound. About the size of a school bus, silver, it was like a cigar. And it had a huge, according to the witnesses, it was out of control. It was barely sustaining flight. And it had a huge gash in the back of it with this sort of blue vapor type smoke coming out. It was a very strange smoke, they said. And I was thinking to myself, like, how did that happen?
So welcome back, family. Today we have not one but two incredible guests. We have James Fox, the filmmaker behind The Phenomenon and Moment of Contact, and Jason Sands, an insider with deep knowledge of UFO research, government secrecy, and hidden agendas. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Thanks for having me on. Right here, success.
Yeah.
Can you read that better than I can?
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. I want to print that and put that above my bed every morning. Can you read that?
It says success is walking from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Exactly.
It's so perfect.
Yeah.
So true.
That's where we are. We have to get to that point consciously, spiritually.
Yeah.
And if we live that, and if we believe that, we will get to that point. We will grow up, as a species on this planet. And the true, I guess, evidence of this will be we will deactivate the nukes ourselves, not wait for somebody to come and deactivate them for us.
I believe that's exactly what the NHI are waiting for. They want to see it, like they've been saying all along. They want to see our potential.
Yeah.
That strength of our human spirit when everything else looks like it's failing.
Yeah.
We somehow pick ourselves up out and dust ourselves off, and we move in the right direction. That, I think, is what not only humankind is waiting for, but the NHI are waiting for.
Yeah, I believe
that's all we're waiting for.
Absolutely. The crash retrieval program has been around for quite some time. I think I could be wrong. I think it might have started in 1947 with the Roswell incident. Maybe that was one of the first, or if not the first, crash retrieval programs. Have you heard anything about the scalar wave radar technology potentially disorienting a craft to bring it down? Kind of like they did it, but did it by accident and then realized, oh wait, we have technology that can bring these things down.
Yep, that's exactly how it happened.
So I remember I had a tough time with Roswell when I first heard about it in the mid-90s. I was like, come on, alien spaceship crash, live aliens, please, And then I started learning more. I was like, the government actually said, the military actually said, yeah, we did recover it. They told the truth.
They told the truth.
It was on the front page of every year,
For a day.
Yeah, for a day, exactly. And I interviewed a gentleman who's a little controversial, and I guess anybody making these statements can be controversial, right? Yeah. It's like any definitive statements you're making about aliens or whatever. But it was Colonel Philip Corso, and he was a colonel in the Air Force. In the Army, and he wrote a book called Roswell: The Day After, or The Day After Roswell. I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact, but he said to me that the military was using a specific type of new radar that they believed, he didn't know for sure, that they interfered with the navigation of these objects that have always been here and caused them to crash. And that's what he said. That was his theory from the Roswell case. Now, you were saying about the crash retrieval program starting in the 40s. My understanding is, and I was in Italy about this a couple years ago, that there was an incident that happened that was unmanned. Maybe it was a probe of sorts, discs that happened in the 30s. Do you know about that, Jason?
I've only heard of it. Yep, Grush talks about that. But yes, they did recover one, and apparently it ended up in some of the annals of the Vatican, I think.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was also something that occurred in World War II. They think they also discovered that this had happened.
So this, don't quote me on this, but apparently it was recovered in Italy in the 30s. And that ultimately the U.S. government got their hands on it and that it was unmanned. And it's a pretty credible report. In fact, there was a telex that I was told that came from the president of Italy at the time, that's confirmation of that they recovered this thing. But I'm told that the Americans ultimately got it. I think David Grush talked about it under oath during the congressional hearing. So I think the crash retrieval program, as far as I can tell, started in the late 30s.
Wow.
And I agree with that statement. It sounds about right from what I've read and heard and experienced.
And the reason why I bring it up is because a lot of people say that these aliens are so smart and they have all this technology. How in the world can they just crash on our planet? They came light years to get here and then they crash. Well, space travel is dangerous, number one, okay? Dangerous. Number two, you might have scanned the planet, maybe even sent advanced probes, but you might not be aware that they have a type of a radar that could potentially disorient your navigation. It could be an absolute surprise. And then all of a sudden you get hit with this radar beam and it disorients your craft and it goes down. It's something maybe that wasn't anticipated. And then, once we discover this, being who we are as people on this planet, we go, let's start picking these things out of the sky so we can reverse engineer them and figure these things out.
That was, No, it's a very valid point. It's a very valid point. And I have to ask the question because I did that documentary Moment of Contact and we interviewed a number of firsthand witnesses that saw this cigar-shaped craft that didn't have any visible means of propulsion, no wings, didn't make any sound, about the size of a school bus. And it was silver, it was a cigar. And it had a huge, according to the witnesses, it was out of control. It was barely sustaining flight and it had a huge gash in the back of it with this sort of blue vapor type smoke coming out. It was a very strange smoke, they said. And I was thinking to myself, like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Well,
was it hit by an asteroid?
Well,
did we
think
shoot
about it though. Think about our own technology and all the, let's say Boeing has a flaw in the way it builds the ailerons and they fall apart in flight after 10 years. You see, they go back to the drawing board, but it was unforeseen that this one area would cause vibrations and cause a crack to occur. And the next thing you know, the planes are falling out of the sky. So to think that other technologies would not be that way, no matter how immensely far ahead of our technology, those kinds of things. And besides that, think about Roswell also, that the radar systems hadn't been in operation here on Earth for very long. That was about the same time frame they were actually invented. So they may have come to our planet 10 years before that happened and never had any kind of a directed energy weapon at all counter their aircraft.
Right.
Things like that happen. I mean, that happens in the war all the time. Well, how the Germans get our subs, or ship? Oh, they have this new sonar, and this is how they did it.
Right.
So it's the natural process of technology, I think.
Yeah. It sounds like it. I mean, it could be anything.
And just because we can't explain something doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, we can speculate all we want. Right? It's like, I don't know how that, all the witnesses that saw it said it had a gash in the side of it and it had smoke coming out. That doesn't sound like, it sounds to me like it's got a problem.
Yeah, it's got a problem. Maybe it took some weapons fire or a malfunction in the in the vessel itself. Right.
We tend to shoot first and ask questions later. So that's just kind of our mentality, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, exactly.
There's a video that came off of NASA servers, which was coming from the space station, and it showed this disk orbiting the Earth and kind of going in towards the atmosphere, and then you see this pulse come from the ground, and this thing shoots away.
STS-48?
Yes, STS. Yes.
Yes, that's and they said, oh, it's ice crystals.
Yeah.
It's like changing.
It was STS-48, the space shuttle. Yes, you're correct.
Yes, it's changing. Like you see it moving like this, and all of a sudden it changes trajectory.
Right as this flash comes from the surface.
Very impressive footage.
Never had any projectile going in the direction of that.
Never had any satisfactory explanation of that. They were like, oh, it's ice crystals. Please, come on.
Again, to me, us shooting first, ask questions later. Ice particles don't change direction.
I interviewed a couple of individuals, both of which on camera, at least two, if not more, that actively tried to shoot at a UFO. Wow. And it didn't end well.
Man. Yeah. Well, that mindset that we have, it goes back to a lot of these ancient wars. It seems as if these advanced beings that may have visited the planet in the past seem to have gone through a lot of wars, and maybe they got through that warring phase. Because when you read the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Battle of the 10 Kings, which took place in space, In the Mahabharata, they had a weapon that once it was released, it couldn't be returned, and it can destroy any man on 3 worlds. They had a weapon called the Brahmahama Astra, which can destroy a planet. I mean, this was crazy stuff. And this was thousands of years ago. The people on the ground said there were flying cities in the sky going to battle against each other. And when you read these ancient tales, you realize it could be some fluffery or maybe, but at the time that these things were written, people were just focused on their daily needs. Like, can we survive the day?
Yep.
Can we hunt and gather and get something to eat for the village? Can we protect the village against wild animals or other tribes? Very few people were thinking about sitting down and writing a sci-fi movie. So when you see the thousands and thousands of schola, which is the lines of text, and you start reading it and understanding, they're talking about real rocket science. They're talking about ICBMs. They're talking about destroying entire planets. It's not just a normal conversation thing to just sit down and go, I want to write about, blowing up this moon around this planet. And I just tend to think that if these texts have any percentage of reality, this could be evidence of an advanced race, maybe even us, fighting and warring in the ancient past, and in some way getting over that and becoming even more advanced spiritually and not wanting to fight and be wars again, but in some way, maybe us being who we are, a brand new species, we're only 200,000 years old, haven't gotten to that point yet.
I would say to anyone out there that has any doubt about the phenomenon being around for millennia, certainly since the recording of time, you could take a look at the book Wonders in the Sky by Jacques Vallée, who's a scientist. Yeah. And you just look at the imagery, right? Cave walls, paintings, drawings, they go back thousands of years, right? And I mean, it's right there in black and white. Yeah. It's super impressive. It's one of the things that I haven't, you've clearly done extensive. I've focused more kind of on the modern, and have dabbled a little bit into I think it has been with us. The phenomenon's nothing new. Yeah. I think it's been going on for millennia, but yeah, that's a whole complex, historical perspective too that would probably provide a lot more answers than what we're experiencing today, right? Yeah. So it's fascinating.
I'm just trying to establish some type of a track record of growth and development and change, because now they visit, or we don't know exactly who it is, but we get these visitations, right? But it's deactivating nukes. It's about talking to the children and telling them, hey, don't destroy this planet, and things like this. Whereas in the past, it was like warring cities in the sky. I just wonder, what was the transition? What changed to now where they're more, whoever's visiting seems to be more benevolent than malevolent?
Gosh, you'd think after all the years that I've looked into it that I'd have more answers, but I have more questions than I do answers. I know. Unfortunately, Jay, sorry, you go ahead.
No, but from my experience, I would say that I fall back on, meeting that person in the desert and the way he was thinking and everything else, that I believe they're just like us. There's factions amongst them, and maybe a few millennia ago, that some of them wanted to do it one way here on Earth, and the others didn't want that. In other words, there may have been a group that was more involved with give them their freedom to make their own way forward, and the other one's like, no, we're just going to help them, and we're going to, like the Vimana, teach them how to build these things, how to power them, and all this sort of stuff. And then you see the Nazis later on picking up on similar technologies with the Glock, and things like this,
and the Hanabu crafts.
Yeah, and believe me, they were very involved in that. And we guess where all that technology went? Project Paperclip. We got all our scientists, and they were willing to work on that. And what do you see now? The atomic energies and all these other things being messed with. So I think it was a progressive thing. And I think, there may have been a no kidding battle in the sky with these cities, battling each other, that these were the creatures from other worlds that were, or the peoples from other worlds that were trying to, it just literally fought over us.
Right. That's what it seems like. Yeah. Because the Aboriginal elders that I walked in the outback with, they said that they were seeded here by Pleiadians. In that region of the sky, they had a great war, and the people fled. Whoever could flee, they fled from that region of the sky, and they started creating breakaway civilizations on other planets. The Hopi tribe and the Lakota tribe, they told the same exact story. They called them the Star Brothers from the Pleiades.
Yes.
And that they were seated here on this planet.
I get chills talking about this because when I was in Africa investigating the 1994 alleged close encounter of the third kind, the landing case that happened at the school, the teacher provided me copies of all the drawings the children had done back in 1994 of what they saw, the craft and the beings. It was incredible. And then, just absolutely mind-bending. Children were drawing the same thing. And then right after that, I took those with me and I went to Australia and I investigated another landing that took place at a school in 1966, Westall Primary School. And I was like showing off. I was like, I was over at this other school in Africa and here's what the kids, and somebody goes, oh my gosh, where did you get those drawings? I said, this is what the children saw in 1994. They're like, have you seen the Wangina from the Aboriginals, talking about these Wangina tribes that are 5,000 years old on cave paintings? And I'm like, no, I have not. And then they like looked it up and they showed me it's the exact same from the Wangina tribe, right? Oh, they talk about the Wangina from the Aboriginals,
absolutely.
The Wangina, and the drawings are almost identical. I had chills on me. Like, oh my gosh, this is 5,000 years ago.
Mind blowing.
Yes, unbelievable.
And like I said, as a man of faith as well, that falls in line with our scriptures as well, that, the created piece to this was about 5,000 to 8,000 or more years ago. And that seems to be like, God created or whatever you want to call that. But there's this creative period of where the Wanginas are recording these sorts of events occurring all around. That could have been when we were, made more intelligent, or we became who we are.
Right.
And then the war happened about a couple of millennia later about where they wanted us to go. And now we're being given our freedom to plot our own way forward. Otherwise, I think they'd be more involved. I mean, if I was an intelligence race, that's the way I would treat us.
Right.
Ultimately.
Yeah. And these wars persist even through what I call more modern religious texts, like the biblical text, for example, talks about the war of the gods in the sky. We talk about the god of war being Mars. And what did they find on Mars when they sent the probes there and the
Phobos 1, Phobos 2. Right.
It's incredible. These things like Phobos 1, they're saying, doesn't appear to have enough mass to sustain an orbit, that it might be hollow. And when they analyze the actual damage to the outside of Phobos, it doesn't look like regular asteroid or comet impacts. It looks like weapon fire. And then they say Phobos is losing its orbit. Now, based on the size and the estimated mass that it should be in a sustained orbit around Mars. But it's actually losing its orbit, and in so many hundreds of years, it will crash into the surface because it doesn't have enough mass, meaning that it's not solid on the inside, which is just crazy.
Which could mean it's artificial.
Could be artificial. What they're saying, this is NASA. They're hinting that this is an artificial moon.
Right.
And then Buzz Aldrin went on C-SPAN and said, "Wait till they find out who put that there." He was talking about the obelisk or the giant monolith on top of Phobos. According to him, it's an artificial structure, and he says, "Wait till they find out who put that there." He did that on mainstream TV.
I remember hearing about that. I almost got an interview with him back in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
That's another story.
Yeah. But when they got the soil sample analysis and the atmospheric sample analysis, they found xenon in the atmosphere and in the soil, but not any kind of xenon. They found weapons grade xenon, which is only a byproduct of nuclear warfare. At least from our perspective on Earth, that's how we know it's created. So the god of war could truly be the god of war. There appears to have been some type of a war that happened, and from some of the texts, it seems to have extended from Earth to the moon and even to Mars. Watch this video for free at www.4bk.tv or download the app on your smartphone, Fire Stick app, Samsung TV, Roku, and other app providers.